Military science hasn't yet coined a term for what the Ukrainian army is doing. Drones over Moscow every day, refineries and ports burning. Crimea is effectively under siege. The peninsula hasn't seen this kind of isolation from the air and sea in the entire war. Almost every day the Russians run into surprises.
We can see that Ukraine has seized the initiative on the battlefield, effectively frozen the front line, and delivered major strikes on targets inside the Russian Federation.
We're used to Ukraine defending itself. But how does it attack? Summer 2026. The front is stuck in a stalemate because of solid kill zones. So all the major events of this Russo-Ukrainian war aren't happening on the battlefield. They're happening in the rear. But the Russian army is still trying to push forward, so there's more happening behind their lines. That's where the fireworks are. But according to Russian army reports, everything's going to plan. Putin probably knows his military is lying to him, since he hears the air raid sirens, sometimes watches TV, and looks out the window. But the Russian president can't call it what it is. So what's actually happening? We broke these strikes down level by level, from FPV's kamikaze drone attacks all the way to the unconventional tools Ukrainians use to punch through one of the best air defense systems in the world and hit Moscow just miles from the Kremlin. The US, Europe, and China will probably all have to make major changes to their air defense concepts. This is about the tactics and signature weapons Ukrainians use across different operations. That's exactly what this video is about. Let's go! So, level 1 is tactical, the front edge. Most of the footage you see online is shot in these exact kill zones. Mostly it's footage from FPV's kamikaze drone cameras or thermal imagers on night bombers like the Vampire. But this footage isn't filmed to entertain viewers. For every verified strike video, units get combat bonus points credited through the E-points system. That's what gamification of war looks like. But this isn't a game. Those points then get exchanged for new drones. In essence, it's an automatic system for distributing strike assets at the front, running alongside direct drone deliveries through the Ministry of Defense. There's no need to write reports or orders, no need to file paperwork on how munitions were used. Instead, the system just requires uploading a verified strike video. That video is effectively the report itself, just in video format. Then the unit simply trades its earned points for FPV's kamikaze drones, recon copters, or heavy night platforms, uses them to destroy the enemy, earns more points, and orders the next batch. This system completely eliminates paperwork bureaucracy and helps instantly distribute strike assets between units based on the intensity of combat and how effective their combat work actually is. It seems like no other army in the world uses this approach. That's genius, isn't it? BBC compares it to kill streaks in Call of Duty Modern Warfare. Ukrainian Minister Fedorov told Politico himself.
This is a mechanism that's changing the rules of war.
And a soldier from one of the Ukrainian units admitted to the NYT.
It's a brutal game because human lives have been turned into points.
Hit like if this approach blows your mind. And before we move to the next level, subscribe to our channel. Your likes and subscriptions help push our videos out there and keep our team motivated to make the next ones. Thanks. So let's keep flying. Level 2 is the deep tactical rear, up to 50 kilometers. Now under round-the-clock visual control from recon UAVs. The most common killers here are large custom multi-rotor quadcopters, 13, 15, and 17-inch frames, capable of carrying anywhere from 2.5 to 8 kilograms of explosives, depending on the size. These platforms account for over 80% of all strikes at this range. But that warhead weight isn't enough to bring down fortifications or concrete buildings. But there's something that turns reinforced concrete into rubble and literally tears fortified positions apart from the inside. And of course, anyone hiding in there too. To take out bridges, bunkers, and hardened command posts, guided bombs like the JDAM-ER and AASM Hammer step into the fight, packing powerful warheads. Thanks to escort from recon UAVs tracking how the mission unfolds, you're about to see exactly how these hellish little things work. A Ukrainian fighter jet releases the guided bomb from 40 to 70 kilometers away from the target, without entering Russian air defense range. After release, The bomb deploys its wings, and the AASM Hammer also fires up a rocket booster, after which it flies to the target using GPS and inertial navigation. Thanks to a warhead weighing anywhere from 250 to 900 kilograms depending on the version, and a speed of 1,000 kilometers per hour, the bomb punches through concrete and buries itself inside the structure. Only then does the delayed action fuse go off. The blast literally tears the bunker apart from the inside. The scariest part for the Russians is you never know when it's coming for you. So they try to push their most important sites even deeper into the rear. But even there's no peace for them. Level 3 of Ukrainian strikes is middle strikes. This isn't the gray zone anymore. It's the Russian rear up to 250 kilometers deep. But it's guarded by a thick wall of air defense and electronic warfare. How do Ukrainians break through one of the best systems in the world? And why do Russian air defense crews sometimes deliberately let Ukrainian drones through? Let's take it step by step. This is where you find camouflaged command posts and ammo depots, fuel storage sites and forward operating airfields, railway hubs and key roads, plus training camps and bases for Russian units. Because of air defense and electronic warfare, operations at this depth need special breakthrough tactics and different strike assets. First, we'll break down the breakthrough tactics, then we'll get into the strike assets. Relay drones go up into the sky if there's no other communication method planned. At the right moment, they need to maintain a link over 100 kilometers with the drones that manage to get past Russian air defense. Here's how the breakthrough works. The UAVs fly at extremely low altitude, over the sea or over land. They use complex terrain as cover, hiding in gullies, low ground, and riverbeds. Because of the curvature of the Earth and radar reflections off waves or ground clutter, Russian radars simply lose them from view. The swarm flies the main route completely autonomously, following preloaded coordinates. And here's the thing, often the Russians don't even try to shoot them down. The reason is, the flight plan is designed to attack any air defense system that gives away its own position. One drone from the swarm will just change course and dive straight into the crew. Nobody wants to die. Besides that, the Russians are often just saving their missiles. Part of the drone group carries electronic warfare gear and simulates the main strike, forcing enemy air defense to reveal its positions early and burn through its missiles. These decoy UAVs are produced by dozens of different volunteer engineering groups, private defense companies, and military units. Structurally, they're super cheap gliders with a Lüneburg lens mounted inside. Now we'll explain how this clever trick actually works. A Lüneburg lens is a special plastic sphere with a metal reflector inside it, which bends radio waves and focuses them, bouncing the signal straight back to the radar. Because of this, a small plastic drone that radar normally can't see starts reflecting signals just like a heavy strike platform. So while some Russian crews are reloading after shooting down a wave of decoys, and others are just tracking Ukrainian drones with their eyes, the main group of strike drones closes in on the targets. Before the attack, they climb up to get back in contact with their operators through the relay. This is needed to control the timing of the breakthrough, transmit telemetry, and confirm the start of the strike. But the final stage happens without GPS or an operator, guided by machine vision instead. Which variants get used specifically for the strike? American technology plays a role here too. But it wasn't Trump who supplied it. The hero of the last few weeks is the American UAV called the Hornet. According to estimates from German Bild's military correspondent Julian Röpke, one Hornet costs less than 5,000 euros. That's what happens when a former Google CEO gets involved. The Hornet's key feature is that it combines satellite and inertial optical navigation, an advanced optical electronic system for locking on and identifying targets using AI, plus the use of non-standard data transmission frequencies. Before the attack, the operator gets on-screen prompts about the type of targets detected and decides which one to strike. The Hornet's takeoff weight is around 15 kilograms, with a third of that weight being the warhead. That's enough to take out vehicles, lightly armored equipment, and other targets. But it's not enough to destroy a large depot or an underground command post. Ukrainians had needed a platform capable of carrying a massive payload for a long time. What emerged instead was a universal tool, one that can carry a lot of explosives and do it in different modes, autonomously and under operator control. So, to bring down fortified and large-scale Russian targets, they used the Ukrainian Tactical Strike, UAV, the Middle Strike Class FP2, developed by Firepoint. It's estimated to cost around $50,000. But what it's capable of is worth millions. The FP2 isn't hunting a single vehicle or a foxhole. This isn't just a drone anymore. It's a flying guided bomb. Its prey is headquarters, ammo depots, bridges, and concrete shelters. A group of Russian operators from the Rubicon unit ended up buried under that rubble for good. A big share of the FP2's most successful missions happen under cover of darkness. For that, it carries highly sensitive forward-facing night vision cameras or digital thermal imagers on board. This lets the operator manually guide the drone through the final phase. After this strike video, the Ukrainian unit got E-points, which they traded in for a new FP2. But this drone's range of operation isn't limited to land. Right now, you're watching a swarm attack by UAVs on a Russian frigate in Novorossiysk Bay. The ship's attempts to fend off the attack with air defense missiles turned out to be useless. Just a year ago, the FP2 could carry a high-explosive fragmentation warhead, weighing 105 kilograms out to a range of 200 kilometers. But in 2026, a new version showed up with a payload of up to 200 kilograms and a range of up to 370 kilometers. A separate version of the FP2 lets you mount, on its wings, unguided rocket pods, UARs, for assaulting positions. It's just insane versatility. This platform's potential probably hasn't even been fully unlocked yet. But for now, there are missions the FP2 just can't handle. And that's when ATACMS missiles come out against the most important and heavily defended targets on the battlefield. But not in 2026, because Ukraine's stockpile of these missiles has dropped to zero. And that's a problem. So what do Ukrainians do? Call in the Air Force again? Yes, but this time it's not bombs, it's a whole lot of expensive missiles. Missions using them look more like a chess combination, because almost every branch of the military and nearly the entire Air Force gets involved. And this is the next level, Level 4, strikes deep in the Russian rear against targets of strategic importance. And now you'll see how Ukrainians burn out the most expensive and advanced systems out there, the S-400 complexes. Let's look at a specific example of how Ukrainians are turning the Russian-occupied Crimean Peninsula into an island right now. The goal is to weaken the southern grouping of Russian forces, which relies on Crimea as a base for supplying food, fuel, and ammunition. So the first stage, blinding the eyes, starts with massed attacks by cheap drones like the Lyuti or Beaver, along with MALD decoy missiles, which force Russian air defense to switch on its radars and burn through expensive missiles. Russian air defense positions get exposed. What's next? So aircraft capable of carrying Storm Shadow/Scalp EG cruise missiles join the fight. In Ukraine's case, that means Su-24M bombers, thanks to a unique integration of pylons from British Tornado fighter jets. Before the flight, the target coordinates are loaded into the missile on the ground. And in the air, the aircraft acts as a lift and launch platform, after which the missile flies autonomously, using low altitude and terrain following. But under frontline conditions, you can't just hang the missiles on, fly in, and hit launch. They'll shoot you down. So besides the Storm Shadow carriers, Ukrainian Su-27 and MiG-29 fighters also go up, acting as direct escort and protection against Russian interceptors. But they're not flying empty either. Mounted on their pylons are AGM-88 HARMs, high-speed anti-radiation missiles, designed to find and destroy enemy radars. If this were a saloon in the Wild West instead of the endless sky, this shootout would look like a classic scene straight out of a Clint Eastwood film. But pilots aren't cowboys, and planes aren't revolvers. And instead of blind bullets, smart missiles that can see their own targets fly to the target. Whoever moves correctly wins. Whoever stands still loses. After air defense gets blinded and thrown into disarray, The Storm Shadows slip through the defensive lines unnoticed. They fly at an extremely low altitude, hugging the terrain. As it approaches the target, the missile makes a sharp upward maneuver so the seeker head can get a clear view of the target and pick the right angle for the attack. The angle of attack matters a lot. Thanks to this, Ukrainians were able to destroy the bridges connecting Crimea to occupied territory on the mainland. Storm Shadow/Scalp made the initial breach and stopped traffic. Then the heavy long-range Behemoth UAVs, a new generation platform, stepped into the fight. Thanks to a heavy warhead of up to 300 kilograms, they destroyed reinforced concrete decking and road slabs on the bridges, causing them to collapse. After blinding and disorganizing air defense and halting traffic over the bridges, the operation to turn the Crimean Peninsula into an island moved into its next phase. Ukrainians got the freedom to destroy military bases, ammo depots, and command posts. In early July, Ukrainian drones struck key elements of Crimea's power grid. Without a stable electricity supply, Russia's rail network and repair plants in Crimea grind to a halt. At the same time, a massive hunt began on Russian vessels in the Azov and Black Seas that deliver fuel to Crimea. The number of attacks is staggering, and the footage from these strikes looks like something out of Pearl Harbor. Crimea is gradually turning into a logistical island. The strategic goal, weakening the northern grouping of Russian forces, is being achieved. But the political goal, forcing Putin to end the war, is still far from being realized. Maybe the fifth level of strikes Ukrainians carry out on Russian territory will influence the Kremlin's decision. After all, these attacks are tearing down the economic foundation of the war, disrupting internal governance, and creating a direct threat to the regime. Systematic strikes on refineries, oil terminals, and compressor stations at a depth of 1,000 to 2,000 kilometers strip Russia of its main source of war financing and create fuel shortages on the domestic market. Attacks on microchip production plants, gunpowder facilities, and missile and UAV assembly shops disrupt the defense order and reduce Russia's technical edge on the front. Strikes on major railway hubs, bridges over the Volga, and strategic aviation airfields force Russia to spread its air defense assets thin, pulling them off the front line. Finally, strikes on Moscow. Beyond the economic damage, they also carry political consequences for pro-war figures in the Kremlin. How do Ukrainians pull off deep strikes without strategic stealth bombers, without tomahawks, and without ballistic missiles? To break through to a depth of 1,000 to 2,000 kilometers, Ukraine's defense forces follow a clear playbook. Let's break down every phase because it matters. If any single stage fails, the strike doesn't succeed. So Phase 1 is reconnaissance. Satellite imagery and data from partisan movements inside Russia provide precise target coordinates. Refinery distillation columns, drone assembly shops, port equipment, substations, warehouses, and more. Phase 2 is the AIR defense breakthrough, carried out using the same scheme as with middle strikes. Hundreds of cheap decoy drones without warheads fly at different altitudes, forcing the Russians to switch on radars, burn through scarce missiles, and reveal their positions. Phase 3 is bypassing electronic warfare. The main strike group flies at low altitude, through riverbeds, ravines, and low ground, working around known electronic warfare and air defense points. The route gets adjusted in real time, mid-flight, via satellite link. Phase 4 is the strike. At 5 to 10 kilometers from the target, the drone shuts off its radio link, making it immune to jamming. The onboard optical AI doesn't identify the whole facility, just one specific component. For example, the distillation column, not the entire refinery. After that, the strike happens. What exactly do Ukrainians use for this? The main strike force for attacks deep in the Russian rear is the FP-1 drone and the FP-5 Flamingo missile, both from the Ukrainian company Firepoint, capable of reaching targets as far as 3,000 kilometers away. The FP-1 has a plywood frame and fiberglass skin. There's no landing gear here. It launches off a rail. A two-cylinder gasoline engine putting out 30 horsepower pushes the kamikaze drone up to 180 kilometers per hour. The attack happens under operator control, guiding the drone along its route. The warhead is 60 kilograms, with the option to bump it up to 120 kilograms at the cost of reduced range. It was the FP-1 that reached the Omsk refinery, located 2,500 kilometers from the Russian-Ukrainian border. But the main thing is the price, around $55,000. That makes it possible to launch hundreds of drones at once, and even if only a smaller fraction reaches the target, the result can still be counted as a success. The FP-5 Flamingo isn't a drone anymore. It's a full-blown heavy cruise missile, all of 14 meters long. This baby has a carbon fiber body and a turbojet aircraft engine that hauls a warhead of 1,000 to 1,150 kilograms out to a range of up to 3,000 kilometers. Because of its massive size and takeoff weight of over 6 tons, a unique launcher was developed for deploying and firing the Flamingo, based on multi-axle cargo platform. The missile flies using a terrain-following system at an altitude of just 15 to 30 meters, which makes it hard to detect. On top of that, the fully carbon fuselage barely reflects radio signals at all. The Flamingo's radar signature is about the same as a large bird's. So why don't Ukrainians use these en masse, hundreds at a time, to tear apart Russian infrastructure the way the Russians themselves do? That's a really good question. But because of how complex they are to manufacture, their high cost, and a shortage of foreign high-tech components, Ukraine can't build many of these missiles, unlike plywood drones like the FP-1, which get built by the hundreds every day. The Flamingo is a strategic level weapon, made one at a time. Maybe that's exactly why Putin keeps waging his aggressive war, while Ukraine keeps defending itself, even when it's the one attacking. Maybe the ballistic missiles set to enter service with Ukraine's defense forces this year will finally force the Kremlin to back down? Write in the comments, do you think Ukrainian ballistic missiles could stop Putin's aggression? And also tell us what surprises you most about the Ukrainian approach to waging war, the E-points traded for weapons on a special website that looks just like a regular online electronics store, or the sheer enthusiasm of Ukrainian volunteers building weapons and systems without multi-million-dollar budgets. Write it, because your opinion always matters to us. And in these playlists, you'll find videos about the most successful operations of this war. Stay safe and support Ukraine.